Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's day 2 of the DIY Dollar Tree Farmhouse Easter egg series. Today we're going to do burlap eggs. And they're actually cuter in person than they are in this photograph. I don't know why they photograph so yucky. But anyway, you're going to use any eggs that you want from the Dollar Tree, any size, any color, it doesn't make a difference. And we're going to use this Dollar Tree burlap. This is the wire edged one. You also have it at Walmart if you want. And we're going to use some double sticky tape. And then you can have other alternatives, but today we're going to teach you how to do that. And then we're going to use our cutting device. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take a section of ribbon and you want to cut the wire edges off. And I wanted to show you that I know that we save a lot of scraps. But if you remember at autumn time where we wrapped burlap around a wire to create the tendrils, how did I not think about this? I probably threw so much of this out over the years, and this is literally just a wrapped piece of wire. So I'm just setting those aside. I'm saving my cut-edged to-dos for tendrils in the autumn. I'm just saying. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to cut this in skinny strips about the width of the double sticky tape, whatever size you're going to use. I've cut mine in thirds. Okay. And then what I've done is I've taken my cutting mat on the shiny side and I've laid 3 strips of double sticky tape right next to each other with barely a space between them. And I've done this so that I can, there you go, so you can see it's like dull side, shiny side. So what I've done is then I've laid the piece of burlap over it. So now I've decided to tape them before I cut them. I found that to be one technique that was pretty simple. You can, of course, cut it, then tape it, and then you can also cut the tendrils off at the end too if you want to. We'll do that in a second. But then what I did was I cut between each piece of tape, basically creating burlap tape. Now, they sell burlap tape, they do. I've seen it at Walmart. The problem is at Walmart, it is wider than you need, so you'll end up having to cut it down anyway. But depending on the size of the egg that you use, you want to cut it as narrow as possible. Then what you basically want to do is wrap your egg, basically tape up your egg, like if you were using washi tape or whatever. And then I've created a couple of strips of the scraps that are left over. I've cut kind of like a semicircle out of them to fit them in between, just to fill in areas. Because if I just wrapped, like, if I lined up tape the whole way, then the tops and the bottom would be really, really thick. So what I did was I just used the pieces that were cut off of the extra, and I've trimmed them down to fit in the spaces, so it looks like they're wrapped underneath. And I just did this the whole way. I ended up using 2 lengths of ribbon. I did measure my ribbon. I think I forgot to tell you that. I measured my ribbon to make sure that it went from around the whole egg. So I basically started at the bottom, went all the way around to the other side, and then added a little extra. I did that before I taped it. I don't know why I didn't mention that. Sorry guys. And like we did previously with other things like wrapping the cross and putting the sign in front of the 3 crosses on the box, I like the feel of it being, I don't want to say messy, but like old and ragged. I don't know, I just feel like ragged makes me feel like, I don't know, feels like Jesus and ancient, and it could be that old. I don't know why. Just bear with me if you don't mind. So for this next one, we're not going to use the double sticky tape. We're going to use our gluing device. Oh, I forgot to tell us about our gluing device. But we're just going to use hot glue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue a little piece at the bottom, put a little drop at the top, and then go around the other side. This one doesn't come out as neat because it's harder to lay the tape. I'm sorry, it's harder to lay the ribbon around the curves with the hot glue because of it being hot. When it was with tape, obviously you could press it and manipulate it as you so fit. But what's good about the hot glue is you're able to take those little sections that you use, that we fill in, we're able to stick them under the full pieces of burlap. But any way you want to wrap them, these are just some quick techniques. I wanted to let you know too that I did try natural burlap, and The Dollar Tree's natural burlap is way too open weaved. If you want to do that, I definitely suggest you paint the egg underneath, unless you want the color to come through, because that would be pretty a little bit, I think. All right. But as far as the color coming through this one, this is not a problem. Okay. And then, like I mentioned in the last video, hopefully you saw it. If you didn't see it yet, go ahead and check out the Easter Farmhouse or DIY playlists. It'll be linked in there as well. But what I mentioned in that video is all of the different ways we're embellishing the different eggs can be swapped out. So I am showing you different techniques, different embellishment techniques on the 11 different eggs. Why I didn't make a dozen, I have no idea. I may still make a dozen. Let me stop talking. But anyway, the different techniques, I basically did 12 different embellishments. So obviously if you want to do, say, the rope braid or the buttons or whatever on these, you can obviously swap them out, whatever you want to, whatever works for you guys, okay? You know, like I say in all my DIYs, I like to teach you techniques and tips and different ways to do different things, to see things from a different perspective. But I do always want you to make it personalized and entirely up to you. I don't want you to ever feel like you have to copy exactly what I'm doing. I want you to make it your own, okay? Now, again, this is a project that is very easy, very inexpensive, but a little bit time consuming, especially when you do the hot glue one. When you do the tape one, it actually kind of goes pretty fast. The hot glue, on the other hand, you want to be careful. You want to go in sections, so it just takes a little bit longer. But it actually goes, you know, it's still relatively fast. It's not hours or anything. And again, you want to custom fit a few pieces. I think I ended up doing about 4 or maybe even just 2 on this project. But what I basically did was I went tape from the bottom all the way over the top back to the bottom, and you're going to do this in sort of like a cross pattern eventually, and then fill in those cross patterns with cross patterns, and then you're going to be left with these little sections that are almost gosh, there is a name of this shape, almost like petal shaped or leaf shaped. That's what you're going to end up with. So I just take some scraps before I do all my final crossovers, and I just fill in those little sections. Tuck them in. I said I tuck them in as I go. All right, and then just waiting for glue to cool off. It's kind of like, this one's only at 2 times speed, so it does seem like I'm waiting a really long time, but I mean that I'm going really fast, excuse me, but I'm really waiting a few seconds because you don't want to burn yourself. All right, and for this one, both of these projects were done with less than a spool of ribbon, obviously. But like I said, this one, it just takes a little bit longer. And these eggs are the large eggs. That's another thing I wanted to make a mention, that if you are doing this on the smaller eggs, then you want to go ahead and make sure you cut your ribbon strips even narrower, perhaps in quarters. Otherwise, they'll be too wide to take the curve. That's really what we do that for. Okay? Yeah, so if you're going to go do this and say, Jerry, why don't you just use a whole piece of burlap? Yeah, that's to take the curve. I think I should have mentioned that in the beginning. Okay, and for the last pieces, I think these are the last few pieces. You just want to make sure that you completely cover the bottom. So what you could do in the beginning, I mentioned, was really skipped over it, was you don't have to, you can leave a space on the bottom. You don't have to touch where you started to where you left off, as long as it's wide enough to cover with that last piece of burlap that goes on there. Okay? Now, once you have your egg all covered, and you can see it kind of needs some TLC, we're basically just throwing a little bead of glue under each one of those lips that doesn't lay flat. And now I'm waiting a few seconds for the glue to just get to be handable, like handable? That's not a word. To be touchable without burning myself, okay? I just want to be able to make sure it's manipulatable. How's that? There's a good word. Without hurting myself. And now I'm using my scissors. Again, we've mentioned this in the last video, They have these things called hot fingers, I think they're called. They're silicone fingertips. There are a lot of people had suggested the two-ended rubber spatula from the Dollar Tree, the Betty Crocker one, that they use to hold down hot glue. You guys do whatever works for you, obviously, but just be careful, okay? We want to make sure everybody is safe. So what I'm doing then there is, if you feel it's necessary to cut into the side of the ribbon, basically perpendicular to the way you sliced it before, just to get the edges to lay flat, then go ahead and do that. That's an old trick we do in upholstery world, that we go ahead and trim it. Or if you make dresses, you know, you kind of put darts and stuff, so it will curve nicely. And then you can put as much finagle into it as you want, basically. You want it to be rustic, then you can, you know, you could stop here. You want it to be more finished, then you can just keep going with the hot glue, obviously, until you get it to where you like it, okay? So here's what the two of them look like finished. The one on the right is the tape one, the one on the left is the glue one. And now we're going to go embellish them. For one of them, I really took the cue almost straight from the Pinterest inspiration. It's definitely burlapped different than the Pinterest inspiration, but what I'm going to do is just take a piece of regular jute, just wrap it around a few times, tie it into a bow, and then stick a little tiny flower underneath. That's it. This is one of the last pieces of that baby's breath that I was telling you about yesterday. Yeah, the Dollar Tree had it as baby's breath a few years ago, but actually when Eden got married, so in 2017. So I just stuck that little tiny blossom right under the knot, and then just, again, zhuzh it, finagle it the way you want it. And then for the next one, we're going to go ahead and take a piece of this. Wow, I feel like this is the fabric that never ends, right? This is the black and white gingham I got for $1.97 a yard at Walmart. That I bought 2 yards of it in the autumn, maybe September, and I've been using it ever since. It just is the like I said, the gift that keeps on giving is this fabric. So I've just cut a strip, probably, look, you can see there, it's probably 1/2 inch wide. And I'm not going to make a whole bow. I'm just going to go ahead and tie it in a knot and just make the two little tails go down in the same direction. So with a tiny bit of hot glue, I tied it in a knot, and I took the tail that was facing up and I glued it down so it was facing in the same direction. And then I trimmed the little edges so that they would be uniform. And you could do a bow, obviously, but I just wanted to keep it simple. Now I have all of these great embellishments. I have buttons from Hobby Lobby, plus my whole collection of buttons, plus buttons that were gifted to me by my friend Sophie. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to play around with a couple. I'll show you guys here. So this one was with the polka dots. This one is a cute little chevron. Then there was heart-shaped ones, and the heart ones were, one was black like a chalkboard with stitches, and the other one was white with black polka dots. But I think I just opted to I don't know, leave it. Leave it just as a bow, and that's it. So I showed you some options, but this is what I ended up doing. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family. Anybody you know might be interested in making burlap tape or any of the techniques we've done here. And as always, you take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye!